Hello and welcome to TALRadio. At TAL, we connect those who are willing to give to those who are in need. It's a very, very beautiful episode today for my lovely listeners and my dear audience. The reason is the topic is something that everybody would agree in today's world, and it's all about innovations. Andrew Tallents, welcome to TALRadio.
Hi, Sandy. It's an exciting topic to discuss today.
Absolutely. Innovations, invention, discoveries, I don't know. We could certainly call them by different names. And I think this is one of the biggest innovations probably of the 21st century, that you and me are sitting across the globe and literally speaking to tens and thousands of people through this lovely podcast. So we would be talking about fostering innovation, encouraging creativity and new ideas. So let me start by asking you that how do you define innovation in today's very, very fast-changing world?
Innovation is really interesting. It's not just about new ideas. So there are two elements to innovation, and we'll build on this later about how we can do this collectively. The first is originality of idea. So we need an originality in terms of, you think about the eureka moment. You think about when somebody comes up with a different way of doing something. It's an original thought that has never been thought of before. And we need that kind of thinking to drive innovation, because without it, we just can't think about new things. However, you and I and all the listeners will be very familiar with people around us who just have lots of ideas all the time. And sometimes they're called eccentric and sometimes they're called crazy, and that's never going to work. So the other thing that you need in innovation, as well as the originality of thought around the idea, is some way of actually taking that idea and making it really able to happen. So it's that pragmatic taking an idea and then making it happen. And that's what innovation is about, because if it's just an idea, it's not going to change the world at all. So we're going to talk about today about how we can do that as leaders and also in our teams, but they're the two key elements.
Very true. So moving on, I would really like to know, so do you believe or do you feel that innovation is a skill that can literally be developed over the time, or you feel that it's like a God's gift, you're just born with it?
I think we are all born with an element of creativity and therefore innovation. However, for it to really blossom, we need to give it space and time. So those people that don't give that little germ space and time to actually blossom and grow in terms of creative thinking and innovation are the ones that would say, I'm not particularly creative, I can't think about new ideas. My belief is that everybody has the capacity to practice that and nurture it and make it more mature, but we do need to give it time. We are, I think, born with sometimes more of a propensity to be able to do that kind of creativity with the time that we have. And so I think there are some people that find it naturally more easy than others, but everybody has the capability to do it.
To basically develop it, along the years, I would say.
Yeah.
All right. So when we talk about work culture, because we really discuss a lot about that, and since you work with tens and thousands of CEOs across the globe, I would say people at leadership level, technically across the globe. So what are the key elements for a workplace culture that it truly enhances, or probably you can say propagate creativity?
So lots of people listening to this will understand this, but recognize that probably where they're working now, there isn't this kind of environment, and we all suffer. So to do this, I'm going to paint a picture of two types of organization and then explain what the conditions are that are needed. So we've got the first type of organization, which we all know, which is a bureaucratic, probably government type of operation organization, where things move in the way that they should move according to certain processes, with nobody ever challenging anything. And it's very safe and it feels very slow, and we get to the end result at a certain point. And if you work in those type of environments, there's lots of systems to support you and it feels safe. So in that kind of environment, it's very difficult to be innovative because we already know what the answer is. If we go to another kind of business, let's say Google when it started up, or any tech type business where there's a new idea, what if we could actually transform the way that people search for things on the internet and then tie advertising with it? In that kind of environment, we need very few rules. We need very few barriers. We need people who are actually going to say, well, what if we could do this? Let's not follow that. And so we need this kind of environment where actually we can be free and agile to think in the way we want to think. So two very different environments. Now, most organizations are somewhere in between those. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we can embrace the elements of the freedom while providing structure and safety that's required when we're dealing with particular customers. So for a leader to do this, what they need to do is assess where they are right now. So are we a rigid structure? Are we a very open structure? And then start to work with the team and then eventually the organization to create 4 or 5 key elements. So the first is, let's stick with the senior leadership team first. The first is that we have this psychological safety, which we've spoken about in the past, that we are able to challenge each other. And sometimes there's disagreements around that. True. And the reason that's important is because if you just say to me, Sandy, well, I think we should do it this way in terms of this particular process or product or service, and I say, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it. There's no challenge, there's no innovation that comes out of that. So I need to prepare to disagree with you and challenge you, and you need to prepare to accept it. So we need psychological safety to be able to challenge each other. The second is we actually need to understand what our stakeholders require in terms of the innovation that's needed. So that's either customers, shareholders, partners, employees, whoever has a stake in the end solution has ideas to offer, and we need to embrace those and include them. So we need to be looking outward as well as inward. That's the second thing we need to create. The third thing that we need to create is space. We've talked about this so much during our different podcasts that we've done. And if you think about most meetings when leadership teams get together, they're very operational, looking backwards, looking at problems that have happened, or looking forwards in terms of strategizing. And there's very little space to actually challenge each other around how we could do things differently and innovate. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing that we need, which again is in very short supply in organizations, is the ability to actually work together and challenge from a position of supporting each other. So let's say you came up with an idea for a solution. I could actually say to you, yes, Andy, I like that, but I'm almost criticizing you because I don't think it's right. I'm judging you. So what I'm going to suggest instead as a leader is, Sandy, I really like what you did there with that idea, and I think we could also do this. So it's actually a build rather than necessarily just a but in that sense. And then the final thing, which is really important, is that the leader needs to make sure that they're not always right. Okay, because if they're always right, then the team is never going to innovate and come up with other ways of doing things, because they know at the end of the day, the leader's just going to decide what it is that we do. So the leader has to step back from that, let the team come up with the innovation and creativity within the space. They have to challenge each other. And those 5 dynamics and levers are usually what leaders need to put in place. If it's in a Google type environment, a lot of that's already there. And you probably have to hold it back a little bit and put some structure. If it's more in the government institution, very little of that I've described is there. And therefore, the leader has to work hard at creating some of that.
So, Andrew, this is quite an interesting fact. Like, whenever we discuss about, especially, the picturization of the government comes into place. I think across the globe, the governments are, they really work in a certain manner that you literally do not find any scope or any space for creativity there. It's like set rules, follow them, do not jump them, do not skip them. There's a hierarchy to be followed. And it's like a very routine kind of a setup that literally does not encourage creativity. But whereas if we talk about the private sector, irrespective of which country that we're talking about, there's always a great enthusiasm for creativity. Do you have any idea why? What could be the reason for this?
A lot of it is about risk-taking. So if we think about innovation, it means, and we're going to come to this, I know you've got a question for me later, but it comes about how much are we prepared to fail in innovating. So if we think about Elon Musk and trying to put a rocket up that actually can come back and land again back on its landing station, that's going to fail a number of times before they get it right. True. Because they know they want to create that. So a lot of government organizations, for very obvious reasons, take fewer risks because they're managing some complex infrastructures. And then the more innovative companies in the private sector are prepared to take risks because that's how they actually get financial reward coming back, because they differentiate themselves from other companies. Now, the one thing that you can do if you're in a more traditional environment, which many organizations have done out there, is create something called an incubator within your organization. So let's take the government organization, for example. Let's say they have to come up with a new way of delivering services for their citizens. with AI advancing, what some of them do is actually take a number of people from different functions within the government institution, and they put them into a special project team where they have a different set of rules, and it's called an incubator. And what they do in a very safe way is actually come up with all these different ideas, not restricted by the way that the parent body works, reports back, comes back with very different ways of thinking, and then some of those ideas over time are introduced into the larger corporate. So it's a safer way for people to innovate and create without necessarily affecting the everyday operations of the organization.
Oh, that's a very interesting take about incubation centers, basically. It's a very, very interesting thing that you've said. So moving on, you just mentioned about Elon Musk taking, the risk, and, you could fail also. So talking about failures, what role does failure really play in building an innovative culture?
So it comes from the perspective of mindset and how we think about it. So there's two ways to think about failure. The first way is to think that if I'm thinking about failure, it means that it's a mistake. I'm going to be punished for it. I'm not going to be rewarded for it. And I actually think it's going to end in a result which is worse than when we started. So that's a mindset thing. And therefore, I will do everything to stop failure, which usually thwarts innovation. Whereas if I view mindset of failure as being a learning opportunity, in that we all make mistakes in life and we all fail. I failed this week, all of us fail. But let's not think about that in a negative way and be unkind to ourselves. Let's think, what was the learning in that opportunity that we failed in, and what could we do differently next time, which is where the innovation piece comes from. And therefore, many entrepreneurs out there, I know Richard Branson talks about this and Elon Musk, is we have to set ourselves up to fail, and therefore we prepare to learn, because if we don't, we would never do anything. And therefore, every single time we just go, okay, did it succeed? Yes, brilliant, we learned something. If it failed, okay, we learned something, let's move again. And then we fail again until we get it right. And so that's just a mindset.
All right. So talking about mindset, are there any kinds of daily habits or practices that, people or I would say especially leaders can adopt at their workplace, in the professional settings, that could be a model for innovative things that they could show, let's do like this, and maybe we could be more innovative and charged up every day at workplaces?
Sure. Some of this is going to sound a little bit strange for people to try, but it's proven that it works. So it links into a little bit about the structures that we had before. So one of the best practices that we can do both collectively and individually is trying to create space in a day, and it's probably once a week is the way we could do this in terms of the busy lives that we have, to actually just put aside maybe half an hour, 1 hour, either with colleagues, friends, or ourselves, to actually think about what are the problems that we're trying to solve right now in our lives, whether that's particular customer problems, product problems, service problems, problems about ourselves, our lives, and just think and be in space and encourage thoughts from others, as we discussed before, to actually get some ideas about how we could solve the problems. But don't put pressure on ourselves within that time to actually come up with the answers. Just explore all the different solutions. And then this is the strange bit. After the half an hour or an hour, just close it all off and don't think about it. And then when you go to sleep, the brain starts to work. There's lots of research to prove this, about what you've been thinking about in the day. And when you wake up the next morning, there are certain solutions that are forming for you, which you'd not even thought about consciously. And a lot of teams do that, and a lot of individuals do that. So that's a great way of just practicing that basic creativity in terms of exploration and not limiting anything about your thinking, and then just sleeping on it and then see what happens.
That's true. It's like, your subconscious mind is technically working overnight on it and trying to find a solution to it.
Absolutely, but only if you don't put a boundary in place. So all this, it won't work because we've got to get rid of that and just say, well, we could do this, or we could do that, or we could do that. Yeah, be open.
All right. So, but in our office setting, at a workplace setting, there are certain managers or leaders who are pretty resistant to change, especially with innovation. They're like, let's not take a risk. So how do you deal with them?
The one thing that I found that works, if you're an individual in a team like that, where you've got that leader or manager, or indeed as a collective, as a team, is to really ask and understand what the goals of the leader are. So that's personal goals, professional goals, and actually ask them and find out how they're doing against those goals. Because if you understand where the motivation is and what it is they're trying to do, you can then maybe pick one of two elements of those particular goals and start to very, very softly, step at a time, and start suggesting some ideas that might help them to get closer to their goals, which obviously would then come down to you as being part of the team. So that's where I've seen it work. If you can attach yourself to the goals of the individual, and then their eyes light up when they can see you can help them get there with a new way of doing something, it usually creates a little opportunity to just try something new. But yeah, lots of leaders and managers are resistant because of the risk profile.
All right. And there's something called idea fatigue. It's like, especially if you talk about creative world, literally.
Yeah.
So how can we literally avoid this thing in our, I would say, especially professional life, where creativity is everything? It's like technically your bread and butter. Every day you're supposed to splur out new ideas.
Yeah.
How can, organization can really avoid it?
Yeah. So this is about putting boundaries in place. So I would argue that every single day or every week, depending how the organization is working, you need some time, as we described earlier, for idea generation, because too many organizations don't put that in place. So let's say it's an hour, and all we do without judging is come up with lots of ideas, and we're not going to say we're going to do them. We're just going to do them. And the reason it feels like fatigue sometimes is because there's no boundaries. Particularly a lot of entrepreneurs and founders of organizations are constantly coming up with new ideas. And yet the team and the organization are thinking, we've not implemented the ideas you came up with last week. And that's where the fatigue comes from. So as long as we can work with the CEO, founder, leader of the team to say, let's have a boundary of an hour, a week to come up with the ideas. Outside of that, we're not allowed to come up with any ideas. It goes to the next time that we actually get together for the ideas. And then out of that, we start to work together to work out of those ideas that have come out this week, which are the ones are practical right now, which are the ones we can take to a next stage of assessment, and which are the ones we can maybe start implementing, and which ones are we going to drop because we haven't got the resource. So if you put boundaries around it and have other people that can take those ideas into pragmatic action, that's the best way to be efficient and avoid idea fatigue.
All right. So now we've talked about idea fatigue. We've talked about, if the leaders are resistant to change, what should we do about it? But what do you feel are the biggest barriers to innovation in any organization?
I think regulation is one. So if we think about every industry is regulated to a certain extent. So I think regulation, if it's onerous, can limit innovation because it puts barriers in place and rules about we can't do things. That's the first thing. I think the second one is about the appetite of the shareholders. Shareholders are obviously funding the company, and they will have a certain appetite for innovation or not. Sometimes they want safe investments, and sometimes they don't want high risk. And then the third thing is about what we've talked about before. It's human nature a lot of the time. So because we are maybe happy at just continually improving certain things, which is still required, that's a gradual improvement. That's very different to innovation, where we're coming up with a completely new idea and how we can change and transform services and products and operations and people's lives. So I think it's sometimes safer to actually just improve certain things rather than take a risk at looking stupid about something new that nobody's ever thought of before. So it comes into, again, about a mindset and how people view other human beings. So they're the things that usually get in the way.
Fine, I really think that, when you mentioned regulation, I think that's technically tops the list everywhere.
I agree.
I would say in a household also. Seriously.
Yeah.
So moving on, how can teams really overcome the fear of criticism or rejection when they are, proposing new ideas or, maybe in a meeting or something?
Yeah. So this is a bit similar to what we talked about before for the leaders. So I think that the structure of team meetings should be, again, psychological safety. We recognize that we can all speak out. We shouldn't criticize each other, and therefore we're happy to offer. And then when we hear an idea, we're actually happy to build on it. And it's having that permission, if you like, to actually say things that may be a bit silly and have some fun with it sometimes as well. So I think having a light-hearted approach is usually the best rather than being very serious. And it usually works best when we don't link it to operational matters or strategic matters. It's just purely around innovation and creativity. What we can do is there are usually, let's say within a group of 6 or 8 people, there are usually 1 or 2 that are naturally gifted, as we discussed before, that have an ability to come up with crazy ideas sometimes. And usually to let them go first, just set the tone to see how silly some of these ideas might be, sets the tone for everybody else. So it can be quite difficult for some organizations, but we can all take responsibility within our teams to actually set the scene for that.
True. In fact, I think that is why most of the corporate world today, especially all across the globe, the big companies I'm talking about, they generally have those kind of leisure activities that, okay, you just go out, relax yourself, and just come back and, tell what are we going to do next or something like that. So moving on, I really wanted to understand that, how do you ensure, or probably how can a leader ensure that innovation becomes a continuous process rather than just like a one-time initiative? Like, okay, you've just done it once, so we are going to harp on the success of it for a long time now.
Yeah, there's a lovely, if listeners want to write to me and find out more about this, I'm very happy to give them a free tool around this. But there's something around the way that we flow in terms of the energy we have for things. And very quickly, we usually are in one of 5 states as human beings in the way that we flow in relation to work that we do. So the first state that we're normally in is what we're talking about today, where we originate new ideas. So it's new creative thinking, which is what we're talking about today. The second kind of energy we can be in is actually taking that idea and coming up with a plan to actually be able to implement it. So that's the second kind of energy that we're in. The third kind of energy that we're in is actually the implementation of it itself. So the implementation phase, we're in that energy of flow of doing things. The fourth energy is about continual improvement, which we've talked about today as well, and having energy for that, tweaking and just gradually improving something. And then the fifth energy is all about an energy around collaboration and working in teams and being relationships and having an energy for doing that. Now, the reason I mention it is because every single thing that we do, so a podcast like this, or somebody working, or someone in personal life, it has to go through those 5 energies every single time, and it will always recycle and come back to the start again in terms of the new idea. So if you think about it, once you've got one particular new project and it's gone through all those stages, and we're helping people to implement it by collaborating, we've then got to go back to the original idea again and say, well, actually, things have moved on now. So what's the next new thing that we can think about in relation to this that will help us move on again? So if we think about it as a circle and a cycle, it's the best way to keep it forefront of mind. It's just not just a one-off. We take lots of inputs, we start again. And because we've gone through that whole cycle, we've got new information about what new ideas can come through. So that's the best way that organizations get into a rhythm and this circular process of constantly coming up with new ideas.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew. But I really wanted to understand one thing before I let you go. And it might a little bit, maybe, it's not a very haywire kind of a question, but yes, certainly related to AI today. I would really like to know.
Yeah.
Do you feel that AI in every kind of intelligence tool which is around us, and I'm sure in the future also we'll have so many, do you think somehow it's going to hamper the human innovation thinking, or it is going to encourage it, and everybody would be like, oh, somebody has made this, let me also try and innovate something in it?
Yeah, I really think it has a key role to play, but I'll tell you the 3 things where I think it's going to work. So the first is, which we talked about in other podcasts, is AI in itself will create more time and space for human beings to be together, to be creative. We won't be saying in the future we don't have time, because we will have time. AI is going to do it. We have an excuse now, we don't have time.
That's very true.
We do, but we will have time. So that's the first thing, where AI will help us to be in relationship with each other, to be innovative, to do the things we've been talking about today. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I've been trialing this recently, I've moved across from ChatGPT to Claude, because what Claude does very well compared to ChatGPT is it actually acts more like a strategic thinking partner with you. So it will start to, and it won't be creative, so to speak, but it will start thinking with you, challenging some of your thinking a little bit, so you can come up with the final creative idea. So I think it will help people with that. And the final area that I think it will do is because it's very good at churning lots of data and looking at patterns. I think if we come up with an idea and say we need a solution for this, I think AI can help us to go through lots of iterations of different combinations of potential solutions to come back with the 3 or 4 that are the ones that probably are more likely to work, for us to then study and decide as human beings, again, those things that we should do. So I still think the most innovative companies out there and the best ideas will come from at least 2 human beings being in a room together, exchanging ideas, that it be supported by AI to create space, to have more thinking time, and to reduce the number of options we might want to think about.
Lovely. Thanks a lot for that lovely insight. And so what is the new tool that you're using nowadays?
yeah, Claude, that's the one now. So I'm really enjoying that. Yeah.
Lovely. So thank you so much for being a part of TALRadio, and thank you so much for throwing and shedding light on this wonderful topic called fostering innovation. I hope, my lovely audience, you love this episode and certainly have amazing takeaways from this episode as well. Thank you so much, and keep on listening to TALRadio.